Welcome, everyone, to Crossing the Line, where we dig in each week to the latest news on the economy, housing, and whatever else is on our mind. Usually not much, but we come up with something. Today, it's November 27th. It's a Monday, and we've awoken from our Thanksgiving-induced comas, and we're happy to do the show. It's our fourth episode, Hannah.
It is.
It's about 3 episodes longer than I thought we'd make it, but, so far, so good.
We're doing great.
I'm not going to argue with that. For those of you who don't know, and how could you not know, I'm Greg Heym, Chief Economist here at Brown Harris Stevens and author of The Line, a weekly economics blog that Hannah helps edit and does a great job. Make sure I don't use the English language that much. We also have Ray and Lena behind the scenes, waving and jumping up and down when we need to know something. And as always, we're here from Studio 1873, conveniently located right outside my office. Makes it very nice. Our goal, as always, is to be informative, concise, entertaining, and edgy all at the same time. I don't know if we've gotten there yet, but, with each new week, it's hope. Unless you're the Jets, then there's no hope and the season's over and you might as well hang it up. Just a reminder about our email address, ctl@bhsusa.com. That's ctl@bhsusa.com. Send your feedback, your praise, your complaints.
Your questions? Yeah,
those two. Again, maybe we'll have somebody come in the studio and ask a question, as long as it's not threatening enough to us and we can answer it. So we're going to do this week. It was kind of a short week because of the holiday, not a lot of big economic releases. So tell you what you need to know, and then we have some follow-up on some topics we've discussed before. I think you're going to like that part. And then we get completely irreverent by the end of the episode, but hopefully it'll be a little bit of fun. The big news is mortgage rates fell for the fourth straight week. And this is, what we've really been looking for and what we've been hoping for is to get rates down. And they fell to 7.29% from 7.44%. So that's a big weekly decline. But more importantly, in just the last month, mortgage rates are down 0.5%. So that's good news. A month ago, they hit a high. Was there a sound effect missing there? What happened? There we go. Sure, when it's a boo, you don't mess up the sound effect, but
I want to make sure I got it in there.
Yeah, well, thank you. So it was a high, a 23-year high in a month ago when it peaked out at just under 7.8%. Now, that may sound scary, but as we've mentioned before, over the last half century, mortgage rates have actually averaged 7.7%. So we got spoiled by 3% rates, and even for a while, some 2% rates for 30-year mortgages. And somehow we've gotten in our mind that they should always be near that low. But the good news is moving in the right direction. Why are they coming down now? Slower job growth, better news on inflation. We talked about that last week. Consumer prices and producer prices, retail sales slowing. So, we're continuing to hope that the economy just cools just enough, just the right amount, not to cause a recession, but just to get inflation low enough where we can see better mortgage rates, which certainly will help our industry and help the American consumer, because it's not just mortgage rates that are impacted by this high inflation. It's like, we're hoping for a letdown in some of this number, just like I'm hoping the Jets lose out so they get a better draft pick, because I've kind of given up on the season, as most people have. But the good news is it didn't ruin Thanksgiving, because it was the day after Thanksgiving. By the way, how was everybody's Thanksgiving?
It was great.
Good?
How was yours?
That vegan turkey, how did it go, Ray?
Smashing.
Lasagna, was it good?
Excellent.
All right, so now I'm hungry. I had a great holiday. On Friday night, I went and saw a recreation of the concert for Bangladesh, the George Harrison charity concert, the first major one done by one of my favorite bands, Wondrous Stories. So to you guys, you were great, particularly Ed Ryan, who did a great Leon Russell impersonation. So that was a great show. And I had a good gig on Saturday. None of you came, but that's okay.
I mean, you gotta let us know the details, the location, the time.
Well, that's
we'll show up.
I'll work on that for next time.
Okay.
But anyway, getting back to why we're happy about mortgage rates, it's really been a drag on home sales. There's two things that are really killing potential home buyers out there. One of the rates and two of the prices. Prices have not come down because inventory is still very low in most parts of the country. And it's also the higher rates are leading people to put more money down. According to Realtor.com, down payments are now averaging 14.7%. That may sound weird because a lot of people may go, I thought it was 20%. Now, remember, there's all these kind of mortgage products. Also, home buyers are more and more looking to family members for financial help in buying a home because if you don't make six figures or more, it's become very, very difficult throughout the U.S. And we've seen this again in the data that came out just last week and just before we got on and recorded this one. Existing home sales just hit a 13-year low last week, and that's, again, low supply pushing prices higher. And we found out this morning that new home sales fell last month. The difference between those two numbers, obviously one is pre-owned homes and one's new, but new home sales are counted when the contract's signed. So it's more of a real-time indicator. The good news about new home sales is they're up 18% year over year. And the reason for that is that there's been so few existing homes for sale that people have been turning to new homes more and more. By the way, for you watching on YouTube, thanks. Hopefully, you're happy to watch us. And we always have Ron Guidry here.
We do.
Well, not we. Hannah probably is going to steal him.
I would never do that. That is theft.
I don't know, whatever, Harry Styles or something like that. I don't know what you'd do. But we have a big announcement. I should have led with this. No more Vince Rocco talking New York cups. We have our own Crossing the Line cups.
Yes, we do.
They're nice. We're going to keep the Vince Rocco. Sorry, Vince, we're not giving the cups back to you. But we have Crossing the Line on one side and the More Network. So we are very happy to have this. My mother's going to be so proud of me.
Now. Yeah.
It is legit.
Stocking stuffers.
Gregory has no idea.
Now he does.
I'm going to have to put money in it, though.
No,
He's going to be a disappointment. So we're happy that we're getting more stuff here. We almost feel validated. So
I do. For sure.
Who knew? Who knew a month ago? So the same things that are pushing down mortgage rates, the slower job growth and the improving inflation data, has made stocks very happy. So stocks have been up the last 4 weeks too. And so far, the Dow just in the month of November is up 7%. So that's really good. It's been the best month this year for stocks. And this is as hopeful as things have been from an economic standpoint, and particularly inflation, in a while. So that's really good news. We also found out last week that unemployment claims fell. Now, even though, it's showing that the labor market is still pretty strong, it's not the worst data. We pay a little more attention to hiring because unemployment claims will let you know the direction layoffs are kind of trending in, but there's a lot of people that lose a job but find another one before they even file for unemployment or get generous severance packages and don't have to worry about it or just retire. So the claims fell 24,000 from the prior week. It just goes to surprise me, like how many times a week do you read an article or hear about a major company laying off thousands of people? It seems to be all around us.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
Show me the data. The unemployment claims are still, a little lower than they were before the pandemic. So what's happening with these layoffs? You got to know, Hannah. I don't know, so somebody's got to know. Ray, you got an idea? No, it's okay.
I don't have the answers.
Nah, nobody does. Economists, we don't have answers. We just ask questions over and over again. As you know, we were doing a rant of the week, and I didn't really have anything for this week. I can't get mad over Thanksgiving. And the Jets, that's old and tired. So at the risk of embarrassing myself, we're going to have a no-duh moment. My son's going to say, nobody says that. I'm sure I don't know what the current word is. When I was a kid, we used to go, no, duh. No.
I think that.
Is that still used?
I think people still say that.
Okay, so.
I can't think of the synonym for that phrase, but.
Well, we'll figure something out. I don't know. I need an 80s to 2020s translation dictionary. Can we get one of those?
I'll work on it.
We got cups. That's a
we
can get
Christmas
anything,
gift.
I think, at this point.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit, Ray. We're going to talk, more comfortable chairs, lounge areas, green rooms. I got a whole list of demands.
Viewers.
Viewers. Ouch. I mean, it's.
That was a good one.
We're not getting more people than my mother? No? All right, we're going to have to work on that. Anyhow, again, this is not a political statement at all. It's just a no-duh moment. Treasury Secretary Yellen was giving an interview about people being unhappy with the economy. And she said that high food and rent prices are the key factors in voters' negative outlook on the economy.
I mean, I'm pretty unhappy about it.
But does that need to be said? I mean, the two basic necessities that you have to buy are housing and food. And, it's the most obvious thing in the world. And gas, but gas has actually come down a little bit lately, which has kept the overall inflation numbers pretty flat. But I just read that and I said, no, you got to come up with something a little better than that.
Yeah, it is pretty obvious.
Yeah, if I ever have a no-duh moment, which I've probably had it several times during the show, just please let me know.
I will.
We should get a no-duh
I
button
will.
or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, so that's sort of the economic roundup for last week. It's the shortest work week of the year,
Yes.
right? We love it. And then we come back on Monday and it's like, oh no, 5 days. Like, what's that about?
No, I'm pumped for this week.
No, I don't believe that. I need a soundboard now because I got nothing.
I'm emerging out of the food coma, energized and ready to tackle the week.
Now, are you ever going to boo yourself at that soundboard or no? It's just going to be positive?
No, I will never.
Positive Hannah stuff. Okay. Well, we did that in under 15 minutes. So see, that's what a 2.5 day work week will do for you, Lena. You get it done very quickly. But Hannah's got some news items, including, I believe, some follow-up stories to things we may have besmirched or discussed in prior episodes.
Yeah, let's start with the follow-ups. So CNBC published an article about tipping again. Most Americans tip 15% or less at restaurants. Now, I was shocked by this.
As a former food service worker, I bet you were angered. You want to find those people and straighten them out.
Of that number, 57% of those tip less than 15. So it's not just 15 as the baseline. It's less than 15. It also said that restaurant meals are the most commonly tipped service, which that's kind of a no-duh. But it
was also, what was the percentage of people who don't tip? I think it was like 2%. 2%. All right.
Which that's...
See, I thought that number might be higher.
There better be a good reason for that.
Well, look, we talked about this. The reason we brought this story up is we literally were walking out of beautiful Studio 1873.
Gorgeous.
When I checked my phone and this article came out, I'm like, why couldn't it have come out like an hour earlier? We could have just included it. But, sum up sort of what we talked about last week. Tipping has become expected. I think people do it under pressure, whereas it used to be to reward good service.
Right.
I think, and I've seen some waiters that make some very nasty comments to people that have undertipped them. And I've had a run-in with that once. Again, I got very bad service, and that's why I did it. But I think most people would like to reward good service, but the inflation over the last year and a half has been killing people.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's anything personal in a lot of cases. I think that the prices of the food you pay have gone up. We've talked about this, the credit card surcharges. You tack all that on, all of a sudden a meal that used to, may have cost you $100 is now $150 or more. And it's now, I'm going to talk about this a little bit, it's creeping up to the high wage earners now that are crying uncle. And I think we have to keep that in mind. But I mean, people are doing it out of fear of what might happen if they don't do it.
It's definitely more of a social pressure issue than, like you said, tipping for good service.
Yeah, no, the restaurants I frequent, I like to tip generously, but to be honest, I've come down a bit. I'm of course well above 15%, but sometimes it may depend how many glasses of wine I've had as to what the tip might be. But I think I hope they understand that for a lot of people it's just not possible. And for me, what it leads to, if I don't feel I can tip or spend what I want, I go out less. So it's a double-edged sword. And I don't want to be that bluntly to say, would you rather have me come the same amount of times and get a lower tip or just to come once in a while? And it's a decision everybody's got to make based on their own financials. And unfortunately, people that really rely on the money and deserve it and count on it can't count on it as much these days, it seems.
Right.
I couldn't find any historical data on tipping. That, it has the percent change. I'm sure I'd have to guess that people are tipping less than they were pre-COVID only because of the weight of the inflation that eroding their discretionary spending funds, so to speak. But that's just, my guess.
I think the biggest shift, like when I was younger and I'd go out to eat with my family, it was 15. I remember that specifically.
Wasn't this last week? You were 15?
Yeah, good one. There you go. There's the answer that I will never not, boo you when you give that. But 20% is, I think, something I see commonly.
But this shows the disconnect because etiquette professionals will say it's 20%, but the average person thinks it's 15.
Right.
It's like we talked about mortgage rates where they typically average almost 8% and people think it's 5.5%.
It's a hot topic. It's a hot button topic.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on this tip thing. We're all over this. Okay.
Another hot topic is the second follow-up from last week's episode. We talked about the American Dream Mall, second biggest in the country. Black Friday, there was a bomb threat called.
As if, I already believe the Meadowlands is cursed because the Jets play there. Like that is just not a place where Giant fans have had their moments there and they can look at their multiple Super Bowl rings and be very happy. But I'm not a Giants fan, Lena, so that doesn't really matter. You look at the Jets, and then you have this arena that nobody plays at anymore. I think, is it still called the Izod Center? I don't even know. It used to be Brendan Byrne Arena, but the Devils left there and the Nets have left there for a long time ago. I don't even know if they have events there. But then this, I don't even know what to call it anymore. Disaster goes back 20 years when this was envisioned as Xanadu, right? Mm-hmm. And Xanadu, it doesn't have a good association with anything. If you watch Citizen Kane, right?
One of my favorite movies.
That's the home he builds when everything falls apart.
Right.
It was a terrible movie about roller skating made with Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly.
I thought you were just about to.
That actually had a multi-platinum soundtrack.
I was going to say, that movie's great, but you were going with the Olivia Newton-John one.
Yes. So, no, I love Citizen. Citizen Kane is the one classic that lives up to the hype when you watch it. Mm-hmm. It's really great. Orson Welles just has that.
Yeah, the best.
So the number of companies, I can't even count how many companies have been silly enough to buy into this.
Yeah.
And, just to lose the money was going to open up like every 2 years from like 2004 till about 2014. The owners kept changing. And it was the ugliest thing in the world. Even
it is right now. It's such an eyesore.
No, but the Xanadu was even worse.
I bet.
It was this mishmash of colors. Like, remember the old Shea Stadium used to have like a cool Technicolor thing with always, like that was cool because it was like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
But it's not cool now. No. And it a lot of this doesn't make sense. I know they have to have these big attractions. Years ago, the ski slope that they built collapsed because it snowed too much one year, not indoors, but outdoors. And so then they finally get ready to open, and it's the end of 2019. And then COVID hits.
They just keep getting knocked down, and then this happens.
Luckily, nobody was hurt, and the store wasn't, this mall wasn't closed that long.
Only 2 hours, but I mean, I would love to know how much revenue was, because, I mean, people, a lot of people must have just gone home. I wouldn't have hung around for 2 hours.
I think Black Friday in store is not the same thing as it used to be. It used to be people getting trampled, and now
you got to get those good deals. I mean,
no, but you can get them online.
What's Black Friday without
I don't think
risk?
I don't think it's you get that better of a deal waiting. Online, you could do it. It's Cyber Monday today. I haven't bought anything yet, but a lot of stores had deals even going through the weekend. So it's just, we're sorry. We don't want to be too mean to you, American Dream, but it's been more like,
I've been there. It's okay.
It's been more like American Nightmare.
Yeah,
I mean, it really, hopefully it gets better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I don't even want to think about what could happen next. Are there going to be locusts flying around in this thing? This has almost become biblical. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting for the next catastrophe.
And I'm sure the current owners who also own the Mall of America, I think, in Minneapolis, 555, I think it's called.
That's the biggest one in the country, right?
I was there a long time ago. When I worked for the federal government, we had seminars and conferences. They would send us to exotic locations like Minneapolis in February. And it was...
Wow.
Yeah, you can get frostbite very quickly in Minneapolis. And the buildings are connected, a lot of them, so you can get places. But anyhow, I digress.
Well, then let's hit on the next article. CNBC published an article about house hacking. Gen Z and millennials are house hacking in order to become homeowners.
Right. So this is basically they're renting out part of, or all of, in some cases, the home they're purchasing. And, there is a danger going forward because there is a rush to build more apartments because of the demand. Rents have been very high because there hasn't been enough supply to go around. So I don't know how long you're going to be able to have this pay off. But look, with prices being as high as they are and rates still being high, although headed in the right direction, it's become harder. People are looking at their parents, family members, and it's still very, very challenging. So why not get a tenant from the get-go?
I think one of the interesting points in this article was that Redfin did a report and published that home buyers need a 6-figure salary to afford a median-priced house in the U.S. I mean, how I can't even hope to buy a house one day with that data.
Well, it is scary, and also, I live in Nassau County. The property taxes are insane.
Yeah.
And if Westchester has like the highest in the nation, and Jersey and Connecticut all have this problem. There was the Tax Foundation came up with their analysis of states' tax structures, and it's not a surprise. The bottom 3 states, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. I think New Jersey was the worst. I'm not saying that because I hate Jersey.
It's okay. I'm used to it.
No, and then part of it is the property taxes. They are very, very high. And look, if you're getting quality schools and roads are okay, then you're more okay with it. But
the property tax in New Jersey is insane wherever you go, regardless of the county.
It's
where I am on the
Long
shore,
Island's the same way.
awful.
Westchester's the same way. It's just brutal.
Now, would you ever house hack?
No, well, I've had a tenant in my house for the last 4+ years. My parents moved in, and after my father passed, my mother's still living with us. She's an okay tenant,
Give her a break.
She complains a little too much.
I'm sure she's lovely.
She just tortures my wife.
I can see like if I had a house that had like a back portion where if I didn't know the person, they could come and go as they please. But I don't know if I'd want to be wall to wall with someone that,
Yeah, no, we were looking to buy a house 17 years ago, whatever it was. We thought about a 2-family because my parents had moved to North Carolina but wanted to come back. And I was like, I don't want to be a landlord necessarily at my first house, So little did I know that they'd want it moving in anyway. But it's tough. People have to live with people longer. People stay home longer. It's, my grandmother used to warn me about inflation all the time, but I was like 6 at the time, so I wasn't getting the message.
It was just marinating, and you were waiting to utilize it right now.
Well, I used to tell myself someday I'll be an economist with a podcast with its own cups.
There you go.
And then I'll be able to afford a house.
When you'd have like the projects in school where it's like, what's your dream job? Or when I grow up, I'm going to be. Was yours an economist with a podcast and mugs?
No, it was to be like this guy, Ron Guidry, the greatest pitcher the Yankees ever had.
There is still time.
No, I can't even grow the mustache like Guidry. I can't do it. And I can't throw a slider. And my shoulder's all messed up anyway. So my dreams faded. Then the rock god thing went away. And I've kind of supplemented that for a wannabe jazz guitarist. But it's, you're supposed to dream big, right? Why dream small? Like,
there's no reason to
Right.
small.
Go big or go home. So
I think my dream is to be a 6-figure earner so that I can
Well,
have a house.
it is a benchmark in anybody's life. You know,
Right.
there's certain things you may look for, and when you hit that threshold, it feels good. And then, you know, what happens is you start spending more. And that is I try to explain that to my son, that you have to start saving when you're young, because you may not make as much as you will in the future, but you have a lot, you know, your bills are much lower.
Well, I mean, this is the perfect segue into our final article, or second to last article that we're going to discuss. Wealthy six-figure earners who did keep the economy going, who were spending, and now they're pinching pennies.
If they can find a penny, maybe they can pinch a penny.
And this is signaling the post-COVID spending boom.
Well, look, you know, you could argue that high-income earners could hold on longer, and they've been helping to carry the economy along. A lot of people have said that about baby boomers that have retired and have a lot of cash, you know, as a reason why retail sales have remained pretty strong despite the depletion of a lot of the excess savings that we had during COVID. So, you know, it's, as I was saying before, as you make more money, people tend to spend more money. You go out to eat more. You buy a new car instead of a used, you know, car. You travel maybe a little bit more. You buy a home. You improve your home. It's almost like you can't spend the money fast enough.
Burns a hole in your pocket, as my dad used to say.
Well, nobody carries money in their pocket anymore. So I guess it's the credit card that does it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I get it. You do. You want to say, hey, all right, I can go out, you know, a couple times a week. We can buy that car. We'll be all right. And, you know, for a lot of people too, bonuses have kind of dried up. Bonuses used to be.
Talk about that last week.
Yeah, we talked about Wall Street bonus. Every year they say, I'm talking about, you know, people that don't make that kind of money, because their bonuses go down. They get six-figure bonuses. Wow. For me, I'd say like how many parts of that number comes after the decimal point if I get a six. But I think that, you know, that's when bonuses disappear, it's nice to get a big check, I'm sure, for the people that do. And that gives you a lot of discretionary money to spend that you can just say, I'm going to do this. So, you know, look, it's been a couple of years, and there are industries out there that are suffering, and it's hard for people to keep doing it. And if you have to buy a car, if you've bought a car in the last 2 years, or if you had to buy a house, you're spending a lot more in that than you thought you would. So I think there's an adjustment that was inevitable to happen, and I think we're starting to see it.
I think so too.
Okay.
Should we? This is exciting. Should we talk about?
Well,
you're probably your favorite article to ever come out ever.
Yes, I was on the Long Island Railroad on the way here this morning.
Sorry.
And no, it's okay. Mondays it's empty, the trains, and going into Grand Central is even better.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
But there was a thing that came up on my Facebook feed. Yes, I still use Facebook. My son constantly makes fun of me for that. But you know, when you play old jazz music, thank you, you got to reach the people that are likely to come to your gigs, and those are people on Facebook. So this article came up about classic rock bands with 3 straight perfect albums. Now, this drew my attention because I'm obsessed with lists and ranking things, but I've also always said if you want to truly be a great band, you have to have at least 3 great albums. But this goes a step further. You know, we're looking at bands or artists that had 3 straight great albums in a row.
Yes.
But what really set me off, and what's going to make my son laugh at me, is the first band mentioned is Slayer. Now, I know it's Ray's favorite band, but Slayer is about as thrash metal as it gets, and as scary as it gets. So my son's going to go, when I show him the list when I get home tonight, he's going to be like, wow, those are great albums. I'm going to punish him.
And for those listening, this was an article published by ClassicRockHistory.com. So you can go check out the article and see if you agree.
So, you know, of course, as soon as I sent it to Hannah, I said, we got to talk about this. So I did some thinking today.
Good job.
I wanted to, well, Mondays I typically don't think too much. I save that for the middle of the week. But so I was going to come up with the top 5 artists that have done this and what the albums are, but I had a couple honorable mentions.
Okay.
And the first one's going to make you happy. No, you're going to be mad I didn't put it in the top 5.
Okay.
So the first one is Springsteen.
Yes.
Born to Run, Darkness, River. Great albums. I mean, the definition of perfect album to me is, and I'd love to hear yours, an album where you don't skip the songs. You
That's
just put 'em on.
exactly my definition. Yeah.
All right, that's good. See,
Yeah.
we're really gelling here.
When we were talking about it before, I said that Born to Run is just not only one of my favorites, but I think it's one of the best albums of all time. A few of those actually are on this list.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, they're legendary albums and legendary artists. So you expect that. I would say Darkness at the Edge of Town is my favorite, but that's
better than Born to Run.
Yeah, I just Adam Raised the Cane is just a really good song, and
yeah, but Born
Promised
to Run,
Land, and I know Born to Run. It's Thunder
Born to
Road.
Run like channels, the Jersey Shore. I mean,
I'm not from Jersey. Okay.
I am. I mean.
All right, so that was.
We'll agree to disagree.
And The River's a great album. I mean, maybe it has some songs I might skip, but it is a great album. Another one, and this is because I'm a huge Chicago fan, the first 3 Chicago albums, Chicago Transit Authority, Chicago 2, Chicago 3, they're all double albums. 3 doesn't really have any hits on it, but I listen to that album straight through more than the other 2. But I think it shows how really innovative they were. I mean, a lot of people will remember them for the late 80s, soft pop songs of Pete Cetera, and that's when they sold the most records and had the most hits. But the first 3 albums in particular, so amazing.
Yeah, those were
the
good.
horns, Terry Katz's guitar playing, My Guitar Hero. All right, then I had Genesis, and I actually have 2 runs of 3 albums for this.
Okay,
I know
let's hear
this
'em.
could go on all day. Lena's like, how many albums? So there's Peter Gabriel Genesis.
Yep.
So, and this one actually spans both eras. So Selling Them by the Pound, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, and Trick of the Tail. Trick of the Tail was the first Genesis album after Gabriel left. They're phenomenal. Selling Them by the Pound, I think, is because The Lamb's a little bit long, and the story is kind of intense, and you've got to kind of listen to it carefully. But it has some great music on it. But Selling Them by the Pound, Firth the Fifth, is a phenomenal piece of music. And the other one is the more, I'd say more modern Genesis, but we're talking 40 years ago, and that's Duke Abacab and the Genesis album. That was when I was a kid. I remember seeing the videos on MTV. They had a couple of funny ones, and one that would no way be allowed today in Illegal Alien, if you've ever seen the video for that.
I have not.
Yeah,
But they used to really make huge productions out of like music videos. They still do, but
they, as much as any band, maybe Tom Petty being another one that really took advantage of MTV.
Yeah.
And really, were able to change their image and become the biggest band in the world. Mm-hmm. And there's really good music on those albums. And then what I consider a modern band, because they're actually roughly my age, Wilco. I would
love
put
Wilco.
Being There, Summer Teeth, and Yankee Hotel Foxtrot.
One of the best.
Is a good run of albums. Being There is just, the alt country movement at its peak. And then it became, by the time you get to Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, it sounds like a different band, but it's actually
That's true. That's true.
All right, so I'll run through this quick. These are my top 5 in descending order.
Okay.
Or ascending order. Let's start with number 5. You have Springsteen, I have Billy Joel. And I picked Turnstile, Stranger, 52nd Street. I could have gone Stranger, 52nd Street, Nylon Curtain.
The Stranger is front to back incredible. 52nd Street has My Life on it, which is one of my favorite Billy Joel songs. It's just an incredible tune.
I think Turnstiles doesn't get the recognition it deserves. I mean, you got New York State of Mind is on there, Say Goodbye to Hollywood, Prelude, Angry Young Man, Miami 2017. These have become staples of his live shows for years. Then, if Eric Gordon's listening, he'll yell at me about this because he's a big Stones fan. I should have put them higher. But Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers, Exile, and Main Street, I think they're 3 of the greatest rock albums made. Exile is interesting because it really has Tumbling Dice is the only hit on it. And Happy, I guess, if you like Keith Richards' voice. But it just rocks from the moment you start it to the moment you finish it. Number 3, Pink Floyd, Dark Side, Into Wish You Were Here, Into Animals.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's not surprising that a lot of the Animals tunes were being written during the Wish You Were Here period. They were fighting over whether to make it one album. I'm glad they made it two. If you never listen to Animals, if you're ever assigned to read the book Animal Farm, just listen to the album because there's basically 3 songs on there.
Or
there's
you can
dogs,
listen
pigs,
and read
sheep.
along. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of there's a Family Guy episode where Peter's forced to join a book club. And the book is 1984. So instead of reading the book, he gets the Van Halen album. And he's driving around town listening to Panama. All right, number 2 is the Beatles. And there's 2 different groups of 3 albums in a row that I could say. And I'm using the British versions here because we go crazy going back and forth. Please Please Me with the Beatles and Hard Day's Night are phenomenal.
Yes. Have you ever seen the movie Hard Day's Night?
I saw it in a theater. They were actually showing it in, what's that theater down in the Village that
Angelica?
shows old movies? No. It's right off of Varick Street. Film Forum.
Oh,
And
yeah, I've been there.
I went there with my little brother, and it's funny because when you watch it in a theater, you actually get a lot of the jokes. Like you when you watch it at TV, like at home, you might be talking or eating, but when you forced it, you really, I still can't find Phil Collins in it. Phil Collins is in that movie as a young, as a young
really?
lad. Yeah.
Wow.
See, we try to tie everything together. But I wound up using the Beatle thing that everybody uses, which is Rubber Soul, Revolver,
Yes.
and Sgt. Pepper. We joked earlier off camera. I think Rubber Soul might be a little bit overrated, but that doesn't mean it's not a phenomenal album. It certainly is. There's great stuff on there. And for number 1, to me, this was a no-brainer. This is the easiest thing. It's The Who. You have Tommy
Really?
into Who's Next into Quadrophenia. 2 rock operas and one in the middle that was supposed to be a rock opera, but Pete Townsend couldn't explain it to anybody. So they said, well, let's just release the songs. And Who's Next is Won't Get Fooled Again, Barbara O'Reilly, Behind Blue Eyes, Going Mobile. So many great Who classics. And Tommy, growing up, was one of my favorite albums. I spent so many hours trying to learn how to play that on my guitar, as much of it as I could. And Quadrophenia has probably become my favorite album, in the last 20 or so years. I've seen they did a 20th anniversary and a 40th anniversary tour. I've seen those. They didn't do a 50th because that would have been this year because it's 50 years old.
Wow.
It's funny, a couple of these albums are 50 years old. So that's my list. What do you got? Any jump to mind to you? I'm sure.
I mean, a lot of them are the same. It was
Which
Bruce.
Taylor Swift albums did you pick, I guess?
Ooh, I'm actually not a big Taylor Swift fan anymore.
Anymore?
But
Okay.
thanks for the stereotype.
Yeah.
I liked her when I was younger, but as I got older, I shifted to more like alternative music and stuff. So I did have an alternative, if you will, an honorable mention. I think that The Strokes' first 3 albums, Is This It?, Room on Fire, and First Impressions of Earth, are great albums.
Okay.
Go listen to them, listeners.
Yes, ma'am. I thought you were telling me. Okay.
Oh, well, you can too.
Okay.
But my list of actually mirrors your list very closely. So I had the Beatles, Billy Joel, and Bruce as like my top 3 for those. Just because, like I said, not only is Born to Run one of the greatest albums of all time, I think The Stranger is as well. And I love Rubber Soul, but the White Album is probably my favorite Beatles record. So,
well, then if you pretend Yellow Submarine didn't happen, and you might want to do
I'm
that.
tired of pretending. That's
Then
what everyone wants
then
me
you
to
could
do.
kind of do. I
love
would
the
almost do
Beatles.
the White Album into Abbey Road into Let It Be. I think Let It
I
Be is a
agree.
very underrated album, which was recorded before Abbey Road. It came out afterwards. It's funny that when the Beatles have an album they don't want to release, that album has Let It Be, Get Back, The Long and Winding Road. Like
I
all these
know.
songs have become iconic Beatles tunes. But that's the talent.
Did you
there.
watch the series about?
Yeah, twice.
it's
to get
so
back.
great.
It's funny that Peter Jackson of all people did it. I'm surprised there weren't like mythical creatures in there and stuff. But there were. Yeah, the Beatles are mythical.
Yeah.
The thing that I saw an interview with him, and this was something that really resonated with me when I watched it. I was under the impression that they were ready to kill each other during most of these sessions. And at one point, Harrison walks out. And then when you watch it, even when Harrison leaves, he's just like, you know what, I'm going home.
Yeah.
And he just walks out the door.
It was very laid back.
And then John Lennon basically turns to McCartney and is like, if he's not back by Monday, we'll get her a Clapton. It's like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, and then that just, surfaced a lot of existing beef between Clapton and
Well,
Harrison.
I don't know. I think when you watch it, and if you have Disney Plus, you can watch it. I actually got to see the rooftop concert in IMAX, so that was kind of cool.
It's crazy. It's great.
But you'll notice a couple things. They are getting along, but they have made too bold a promise that in 2 weeks they were going to write an album, get it ready, perform it live, and that was going to be it.
Yeah, I was like stressed just watching it. You know, and this is however many decades later. But
they have to change studios. Harrison walks out. And one of the things you notice is that Lennon doesn't seem to care much. Like he comes in late every day. And
yeah, Paul was the one that was really trying to be the glue.
He's focused, and you get to see him write Get Back, just sitting there with his bass. And then you see him, Mal Evans, their road manager, is there, and he's writing Let It Be in like 10 minutes.
It's just
while
genius.
Ringo is like drinking coffee and looking at the newspaper kind of thing.
I think I'll go watch it again, honestly, for the 80th time.
I can't get enough Beatles. You know,
Neither can I.
What do you think of the new song, Now and Then?
Well, since it's a part of the previous two that were released when the anthology came out, do you know what year that came out? It wasn't in the 90s.
I thought it was the late 90s. But that gave us Free as a Bird
and Real Love.
Real Love is really good.
That's my favorite one. I liked it, but I think Real Love is probably the best out of the three.
Well, yeah, I would say that's good Harrison guitar solo on that. Oh, and just one more thing before we close it. Sorry about all the music talk, but we'll probably have special editions that are just about music because I got a lot to say about it.
All I can hope for is that someone did listen to one of these albums if they haven't before.
Well,
especially the Strokes. Okay, they're worth mentioning.
But I was going to put Metallica albums on here, but I can almost now. In the article, they mentioned the three I would put because it's Ride the Lightning, into Master of Puppets, and then into Injustice for All. But my son would say, like, no, those aren't the best albums because every fan of a band can't like the most popular ones. It's got to be the ones that,
of course not.
You know, real Floyd fans. Dark Side's not the best Floyd album. So he'd say they're all great, and he'd say I forgot like Slipknot and Anthrax, and Ray, I got to do something about his listening tendencies.
Let him express himself in any way.
His Uncle Ray will straighten him out. Thanks, Ray. I'm going to hold you to that. Well, thanks for indulging us. Hopefully some of you stayed on listening. But, you know, again, it was a slow week, so we try to throw some music in. You know, we want to inject as much of us as we can.
That's what we did.
I don't think anybody's crying to learn more about me. Hannah's a different story.
Don't sell yourself short.
I'll leave that to everybody else to sell me short. But again, thanks for joining us again, and we'll have a lot more economic data. The big news will be coming a week from Friday when we'll get the November jobs numbers. Usually it's the first Friday of the month, but since it's the first, they push it back to the following week. But don't worry, tune in next Monday. We'll have good stuff. There's a lot more housing data coming out this week and consumer confidence. So we look forward to sharing that with you. Thanks again, Hannah, and to Ray and Lena. And I hope you have a good week, and thanks for crossing the line with us and our mugs.